waiting.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Snowstorm Studios, guys. Welcome to the first Snowstorm podcast, or as we call it, I think it's called the Snowcast. Guys, this is a little bit of a test night for us. It is the first podcast with this sort of layout. We're really excited, and for the podcast setup, guys, what are some things I want to talk about before we actually get into talking to our guest is the way the podcast is going to go is we're going to do it every Thursday at 9 to 10, starting now. So from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock, we'll be doing the podcast, and the way the podcast will go is we will talk to people. And then, thank you for the subscription, whoever that was. That just blew up my ears right there.
Storm God.
Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate that.
I will kill all of the EP and PvP, and I like the logo.
Thank you.
He's gonna kill all the EP.
All right. So the first thing, guys, about the podcast, I sadly will not be able to see viewer chat. I actually don't have the stream pulled up. I have it pulled up like behind everything else. This is going to be going on YouTube, and it's for people listening, but I want to film it during this time period so people can kind of come watch if they want to and listen. And yeah, that's basically going to be the setup. We're going to go from 9 until 10, and then we will switch over to a normal stream where I'll be down in the corner. We'll be playing ESO with the team and doing our normal stuff. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let's kill it tonight. Let's have a fun time. And guys, let's get into the podcast. So, my guest tonight, guys, is my younger brother and the main healer for Snowstorm Studios. His name, guys, is John, or Opposite Giraffe. John, thanks for coming on the first night.
Happy to.
I appreciate it. I was a little nervous about this, guys. Like, I'm already taking off the sweatshirt. But it was nice having John on for the first night because me and John, we talk about all the stuff we're about to talk about tonight all the time. And so I scripted it out, condensed it, and we're going to talk a lot about the healing stuff John does for me and the team. We're going to talk about ESO on console. We're going to talk about certain creators John enjoys watching, what he does when he plays ESO, the work he puts in for his builds. And if any of you guys are inspiring healers who want to get better, this is definitely the podcast to listen to because we're going to be going into some deep, in-depth conversation about the healing in ESO and how important it really is and how discriminated they are against in random dungeon queues and anything else that happens. So, I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about with you, John, was sort of ESO on console. I know I just kind of talked about the healing, and that was your introduction, but John is an Xbox player with me, guys.
I am.
And I wanted to pick your mind a little bit, John, about playing on console and sort of where you started playing, and did you start playing on console, and what kind of made you move over?
Right. Well, I played on the computer. We played.
Yeah, we did.
And my first character was a DPS, not a healer, so I haven't always been just the healer. But then once you got on and Alex got on, it was like, oh shit, we kind of have a team. We need a healer. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And back then it was just heavy armor and breath of life.
Yeah, no clue what you're doing. I mean, that's all newer healers. It's always kind of testing around. You don't know the importance of armor sets and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like any other heal other than breath of life, because you see this little wave come up and you're like, oh shit, all my buddies are healed now. So it'll just keep clicking that if things get tight, you know?
Exactly.
So that's what I did. And somehow, though, I believe it was actually a joke to troll you to make my guy an Argonian, just because I thought it was so stupid. But it turned out they actually make dope healers. So
yeah, they're actually probably the best class for healing.
Yeah.
And then, so then we played on PC, and then we switched over to console right when it released, actually. And we've been playing on console there ever since. And the reason we switched was because our PCs were so bad. I mean, you can go back on Snowstorm and watch some of those videos. Yeah. And I mean, we're struggling to keep it windowed at low graphics. Like it was.
I was a Templar though. Seto. I was a Templar. That much I did know. I knew Breath of Life came from that class.
But that's what made us move to console. And then if you could elaborate a little bit on maybe some of the struggles you face on Xbox, or what are the differences you noticed on Xbox?
So yeah, so I was only like halfway through the story, I guess. We switched to Xbox, and at first I was like, oh, goddamn. Even though the computer wasn't great, I now have to grind up a whole new guy because we missed that little transfer event where you could get the characters.
You can move them over.
There was
we did
something
not
with that.
Capitalize on that at all.
So we switch over, and my first guy on there wasn't a healer either. It was the Dragon Knight. It was freaking Edric.
Yep.
So, or not Edric, the other one. But I'd play on him. Dan, thank you. And then again, we all switched to we need a healer. So I was like, well, I kind of have a little practice. So I do an Argonian Templar again, now knowing that that was the best choice. But we start on it, and the controller instantly is better, in my opinion.
You
I
like the
using
controller better? Yeah, that's actually something I didn't even write down in my notes, but I see a lot of players very vigorously cut in half. I know some streamers who have switched from console to PC, and they need to take the controller with them.
Right.
They're not willing to learn, and then...
I would.
Yeah.
If we switch back. But then, yeah, so I guess that was... Then we've been going to Xbox ever since. And... I definitely wasn't great at first, but I was a little bit better. And then you learn the sets, the real moves, and you kind of can become a decent healer actually pretty easily.
I actually want to talk about that a little bit, because that's another thing I find when I'm doing my streams. A lot of the people who are coming are asking about getting better, and I feel like for me and for a lot of players, it's a hurdle you jump over where you don't really know what's going on, and then one day it all kind of clicks. And when did you feel like you clicked? Was there a CP level you hit? Was there
I'll let you know. Yeah. So there's actually been like 3 clicks, or maybe just 2 over time. And the first one was when we all started to play again. I think this was maybe 2 summers ago, and we grinded out ICP so I could get spell power here. Remember?
Yep.
Because the nice thing about being a healer, though, especially if you're a like a noob healer, the sets are very straightforward. I mean, you read a set, and
at least for the beginners
increase your healing 12%. You know, like axe, like more magicka, more sustain. So it's like very obvious. While with DPS, it's hard because it'll say get magic damage or like get flame damage and then get weapon damage, and you're like, is that really what I want? So ICP is Imperial City Prison. It was like one of the first DLC dungeons. So that was nice. So we instantly knew what sets to go get me. So we went and got that. And then remind me though, what's the one with Sanctuary? Was that Crypto Hearts?
Yeah, Sanctuary was oh, I don't remember, but I get what you're saying.
Right. So once we got those 2 sets, and I don't even know.
What made you know?
Better. My Breaths of Life was doing so much more. Like I had better everything.
What made you know to go get those sets? That's really that's the thing with players sometimes.
Right.
They know what's good, but what gives you that motivation? Is it a content creator? Is it a video? Is it not being able to beat something? Because I know with you and me, and I'm kind of setting up the answers here for the listeners. I obviously know your story very well, John, because you
Spanish cells. It was Spanish cells.
Yeah,
that's right.
we've been at the hips ever since we started playing, but
Right, I mean,
I think for you and me, if you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think it's also not being able to beat something. I think when you get that team, and I always emphasize, and I'm gonna say it again tonight, guys. It's really once you get that team, you're gonna notice like the game opens up a lot, because me and John were right always the same CP level. We lived together. We would progress together. It's like a sports team in a way, and we would work through dungeons, and so we would lose, and when we lost, we wanted to get better. And I think that is like that hurdle a lot of people to jump over is once you can't beat something, you're like, oh crap, like I'm actually not that good. Like you and me going and doing VMA recently, it's really exposed us to this oh crap, we got to get better.
Right. Like I thought we were gonna kind of cook through that, but I was like, geez, there's still more to learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
Quite a bit too.
So you like the controller better, and then have you ever thought, I guess the other thing is, and I get this all the time, dude. I go into other streams and people will be like, hey, you need to move to PC. Like Xbox isn't the place to stay. Like what's your mindset on that? Are you thinking in the long run of ESO, I'm going to stay on console, or are you thinking, I want to move?
We have PCs now.
We do, we do.
That really does make the biggest difference. So being able to get on and use graphics better than our Xbox, and having a game that won't lag even less, and the servers are up better and the players are better, so those parts, it's tempting. It's like you kind of want to.
And can I cut you off for a second? I feel I feel like some of the PC players, and I don't mean to discriminate against, I always implore them to come play on Xbox for a night and kind of see some of the stuff we have to deal with, because Xbox, and I'm not saying PC doesn't lag, trust me, I've watched, I watch a lot of streamers, and I definitely try to get like my fair share of watching PC streamers, and I just feel like, and it sounds bad, but I feel like ZeniMax pays a lot of extra attention to the PC, whereas the console players do take a hit, and it's something that it's frustrating for streamers and players. They play on the
PC though, you know.
Exactly.
It's their like their service.
And that may not be the case at all, but I just feel like sometimes it is. Like
it seems like it sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough. But so do you think you'll move to? I guess the question: do you think you'll move to PC?
Dude, I don't. I could see myself making a stream character where I'll get on the PC, I'll get a healer to 300 CP, I'll get him. Shit, dude, I'll probably get him spell power cure and sanctuary again, and then I won't play anymore. I will only use him for when we are gonna stream because my heart's in the Xbox. Like I'll always just log back on the Xbox when I want to play.
It's
serious
hard to,
ESO.
dude. It's hard to regrind. I feel like it's one of those easy things to say and hard things to do.
I give myself 3 weeks before I promise that to anyone.
I've seen people regrind before, and it is such a extreme power of will to do it. I respect it, but I don't know if I have the time, the energy, or the motivation.
Yeah,
and
the regrind is garbage.
And I personally love the Xbox community. I know that sounds a little silly, but I'm happy to be on the Xbox community, and I feel like it's fine. But what happens though is I feel like the PC, you can upgrade it. The game runs better on PC. So I think that's another thing about consoles. Sometimes you and me will say to each other, I don't think the Xbox One was built for ESO.
It wasn't. And you know what? I don't care how good your Wi-Fi is or how new your Xbox is. I think it will be a long time before an Xbox can run open world serial PvP as good as a computer. It wasn't made for an Xbox's processing power.
I agree,
so
100%.
Always be laggy. I don't think we'll ever see that unless Xbox makes a new generation. I'd even argue the One X, dude. Or what's the newest one? Didn't another one?
It's the X. It's the X.
It's the X. Yeah, I don't believe it'll run that as good as the best PC.
When I have King on, which I will have King Supercuts on, we'll talk about that because he plays on the Xbox One X, and I am interested to pick his mind about it and talk about the specs. But let's get into some healing here. So we've just recently, as a stream, a team, anything else you want to categorize us as, we just started healing for trials. So I really do want to pick a new healer for trials. Mind, how was the switch from vet dungeons, which was every night for 3 hours, over to this extremely new game mode with more people to heal, maybe even more going on and a lot more coordination? Was it an easy transition, or have you found yourself struggling and having to learn a lot of things?
You know, it really depends. At first, it was easier because I wasn't doing it right. So I get into the trial, and I don't, obviously I know not to just spam Breath of Life, but because in dungeons you can get by without ground heals, I didn't really use those a lot. So before we started doing the trials, I would just use a lot of breath and this one where I put my hands together and it gives you guys health. They're instant heals pretty much. They're not healing over time things. So I would just use those. But you get into the trial and you have to use your ground heals. And it teaches you that those are actually, at the end of the day, they do a lot more. They're like an AoE for DPS. And so you want to stick to those. So it was easier first because I was doing it wrong, and then when I figured out how to do it, it was still easier because we were just doing AA, right? We were just doing Theory and Archive.
Yep.
And between me and Drone, who pretty much taught me everything, shout out to her. She showed me actually how to heal in the trial at all. But it was between the two of us very easy in AA. Now that we're doing more difficult trials, it's just different. That's really the only way I can put it. When we do something like Vet Bloodroot, like that, the end of that is hard to heal, and you have to be on your game. Yep. But at the same time, it's just different, I guess. I don't know if it's easier or harder.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that's interesting is the switch over. Have you found it an easy transition, or are you finding yourself have to change habits? Because I know any person playing ESO, tank, healer, DPS, you get into habits, good or bad, of how you play the game. Like, one of my habits as a DPS is I'm over-shielding all the time. Right. And it's hard for me to break myself of that. And when I've gone from DPS dungeon to DPS trial, I've found that it's hard for me to shake that habit, even though I should be, because I should be focusing on DPS. Have you found yourself having to switch habits? And also with a healer like Drone, who's your probably the first slot healer and you're the backup healer, are you finding yourself getting criticized by or is she calling you out saying, hey, you're doing this wrong? Like, are you finding habits? Are you finding habits you do in dungeons bad?
At first, a lot, because everyone could see that I was doing it wrong except for me. They knew that they weren't getting the heals they were if they were on Drone's side or something. So she did it first, but she needed to. She had to tell me which moves to use. So it wasn't as much hard criticism of, oh, John, you're crap. It was, you need to make sure you're doing it like this. So I guess at first, though. It's funny. It's almost been like the opposite. The habits I've learned through the trials, I now use in the dungeons. But those habits I had when we were just doing dungeons didn't go into the trials for long because drones stopped.
So that's interesting. So you're saying
weird.
trial habits can translate much better than dungeon
Yeah.
habits.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because you use the same methods to heal. It would be 8 people. How many of us go in the trial? 16.
Yeah, there's 12. 12.
Yeah, 12. So 6. So when you're healing 6 people all day, use those same moves on 3,
Or 2.
but you can do it twice as fast.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It'd be 3 because I'm the healer, and honestly, with the tanks need healing a little bit and resources.
Yeah, that makes
The same
complete
way they do in
sense.
trials.
That makes
So
yeah.
it does. And it's like it might not be as effective per person, but when you double it and it's on them all the time, it is.
Yeah. So we can get technical about it too. Have you found, you talk about basic sets as a healer starting off. So you have these spell power cure, these sanctuaries, easy sets to get because the dungeons aren't hard to grind on normal with a decent team.
Right.
Do you find yourself when you're going into trials? Excuse me. You maybe have to get some different sets for different situations. And is that more important in the trials than dungeons? Are sets more important in trials? I guess that's what I'm asking. It's a better way to word it.
That's
More important in trials. Like, are you switching them more?
Not by any substantial amount. In the trials, there's way less room to mess up. So if you have the right set on to a T, you get a little more wiggle room in things that you might mess up on. So when I'm using Sanctuary on a really hard one, and my Healing Springs runs out, before it ran out, it will have been 12% stronger. So now if I miss setting up another one for 3 seconds, you won't die because it was there. While in the dungeons we do, there's a little bit more room to mess up, but at the same time, more stress on each person. So even though I might miss a Breath of Life, you guys will be well aware that you might miss a Breath of Life. So you'll know, to get around it. So the sets are important in both, I guess. But they're probably more. You probably need a bigger variety of sets for trials than dungeons, in my opinion, because trials are far more situational with each boss for the team to do well.
Yep.
You know
And
what
I think the mechanics are more important on trials.
Right.
I see less on vet trials cheesing, and for anyone who doesn't know what cheesing is, it's just burning a boss fast enough because your DPS is high enough. I see more cheesing done on vet dungeons than vet trials. You know what I'm saying? So I feel the healing becomes more important on vet trials. And that actually wants to lead me right into the next topic. We can come back to this, but I just don't want to forget this point.
Yep.
I made a video a couple weeks ago talking about the new group comp for dungeons. And when I got my first double key win and when I got my first speed run on Bloodroot Forge, it was with 3 DPS, 1 tank. And then I also found myself when I beat Falkreath Hold for the first time, it was 3 DPS and 1 tank. And it's funny, you never see that in trials. You never see trials drop the healers. So I find that when people come to me and they go, "Oh, I'm looking to heal," and they'll message me. I get PMs a lot of time, looking to heal. What should I try to do? I would sometimes even push them, try to find a normal trials group because you're going to be much more valued there.
You will
and I
be.
feel like the game mechanics and the way ESO is making trials is making healers. Trials makes healers more important than dungeons do. And I guess I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. Is maybe that the reason the sets are more varied in trials? The skills are more special. Like I think that might be the overall thing.
Right. It's definitely more important. And I think what it comes down to is having 6 DPS or 5 DPS to worry about as a healer in a trial. Keeping them fully healed and full resources is, you get more production than if I was another DPS. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the damage being dealt is so much higher.
Yeah.
So when I'm in there, I'm only adding maybe like just a value, like another 300 DPS. So
Exactly,
like,
but
it's not, while in a dungeon, because there are only 4 people.
Yeah, only 2
and
DPS.
only 2 of them are DPS. So the game knows that. So when you break the standard of having the healer, and you initially add a whole third to the DPS instead of just like a 6th in the trial, So at that point, the trade-off is better. because
Yep.
you get the more damage, which will do more than me keeping you guys full of resources. But while in the trial, keeping you guys good and healthy and ready is more important than one other.
I want to say too, you buffing a bunch of 50k hitting DPS is better than another 20k.
Dude, yeah. Even if it was another 50k,
yeah,
it's still
because you're
better.
keeping those 50k players alive.
Right.
I mean, it's a true definition of a support class. You know, healers, I think, are always overlooked in the dungeon game. This is just another thing that I see in the community, especially with my community and like my stream teams that I've run with in the past couple of months, almost this whole year. The healers become less and less important, but I feel like when the trials start up, those healers become so important, and they become such a vital point, to the point where DPS can't talk in chat and healers need to coordinate what is going on, because if a team doesn't have the healer, they will die. Very rarely in a dungeon do you say, oh, we need a healer for that. And even when you need a healer, I can think of Fang Lair. I need you using Wall of Elements and Force Shock, so you can, or Crushing Shock, so you can interrupt and do more damage. I even have you putting on Infallible Ether instead of a healing set, so you get a little more crits, so your damage is a little higher. I feel like even when like you're going into dungeons, the healer still is a hybrid at best. And Deltia says it in his videos. He says, you know, a good healer is a healer who's also doing some damage, because those dungeons need that extra damage that they're not getting. And if you have DPS hitting hard enough, like in the perfect group, 2 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank. The 2 DPS are hitting so hard, the healer is more important. But if the DPS aren't hitting hard enough, the healer is not as important as the burn. And so it's an interesting conversation, and it's something that I don't see a lot of people talking about. And I think that's where trials become really exciting for endgame players, because you do enough dungeons, you queue into enough random vets, and you get shit on enough times for being a bad healer when you're not. And then you go into a trial, and now you are one of the most important people in the group, not the back of the group. You are now in the front with the tanks. Like, so I really think trials are something that is so beneficial for healers to get like more exposure, more like appreciation, and just have more fun. So I don't know if there's anything you want to elaborate on that. It was just sort of a closing remark.
Yeah, I love it though. Preach it. Makes the healers feel good for sure. It's very true.
Yeah, we can move right down to the healer discrimination, the healer haters. I mean, that it's something that, and last night we were streaming, dude, having a great stream, and people are coming to my chat and they're saying, yeah, I'm queued up as a healer, and the tank dies, and then they yell at me, and it's like, what if the tank dropped aggro? What if the tank doesn't have enough health or enough resistance? The healer can't heal through that. It's like that, it's like you can't have a broken healer to fix a bad tank. You know what I'm saying? And broken, I mean a great healer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So. If you want to elaborate a little bit on the healer haters.
So it's like anything, right? Like, just think back to like elementary school, like the bullies, the people who are mean. It's because they're not happy with themselves. So think about that in terms of this dude. You get 2 super rude DPS who keep dying. Well, if you were killing it quicker, my heals would have been sufficient, you know? But they just don't know that, and they don't know how hard they're hitting, or they're insecure about how low it is. So it's easier for them to say, hey, your heals are garbage, that's why we can't win, instead of them just taking their own ownership and saying, honestly, if we were hitting harder, we could do this, you know? But the healer can definitely keep up, though, if the DPS are slower. If the DPS are slow, but you have a good healer, you can still get through it.
I mean,
so it's not always full discrimination. I've been in groups before, and they'll actually say really good heals. Like,
no, and I mean,
because you can make up for it.
I want to, talk a little bit about our group. That was our situation for a long time. Was the DPS, me and whoever else it was, we weren't hitting hard enough. And John, and I don't mean to talk for him here, but he wasn't even enjoying healing. We'd stopped streaming, and John was
so
like,
intense.
He's like, because the boss fight lasted so long. You had so much healing.
Like my resource bar was like twice as important as anyone else's, because we were fighting for so long.
But then I think that also says a huge testament to good DPS is when you came home for the summer and I had improved and gotten better. You came over to me and said, I enjoy healing again. I'm having fun doing this.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, healing is fun when the group works. Anything's fun when the group works. But I think the problem you see with the healers is when they're going into these random groups, they're being discriminated against much more than the tanks and the DPS. And this is a lot of word of mouth for me. So for anyone listening, I'm not saying this is like a statistical fact. Oh, ZOS released facts and more healers get blamed for losing than anyone else. not at all the case.
No,
But I
dude,
find
it is, though,
people,
like,
I find
right.
people looking at the healer the quickest. Like, oh, why are we losing? The healer. That's the first coin they flip, or the first box they flip to see what the answer is.
It's the easiest to see, because you know why? It's because people who aren't great at the game or they don't know, when they say, "Oh, why am I dead?" they instantly turn right to the healer, you know? It's very easy to say, oh, if I got one more health bar back or one more breath of life, I could have beat it. So a lot of people with the lack of the game, they're just a lack of knowledge about the game.
Exactly.
They get mad quicker because it's very easy for them to think, oh, I could have done that if I had more time. But it's not about the time. It's about if you had done it quicker.
Exactly.
Then, you know,
and it's
so
also
yeah, the healers definitely get a lot of hate though. It's funny because I remember you brought it up one day. I actually read a thing about it, and it was saying don't play ESO if you're going to be a healer because you will get the end of the shit stick. You know.
Yeah, and especially in these random groups where people haven't been exposed to what a good player is. And I'm not saying, I always find it hard to not become an elitist as you get better.
Right.
And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I find myself looking down sometimes, and not in a bad way, in a way that I want to help, that players, they think it's the healer because they died. No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because on paper, it's just, oh, my health hit 0. Why was I not healed? It makes sense. But it's not that. The answer is, why is the boss's health not at 0 yet? You know what I'm saying? That's the answer. And sometimes you can have a bad healer. I'm just thinking these situations where a healer queues up, and maybe they're not the best, but you cannot blame the healer for bad DPS and bad tanking as the fault. Now, if you're going in with a great group and there's a nasty one-hitter, an AoE, and you can be healed through, yeah, maybe that's the healer's fault, but it's not. It's not all the time, and I try to create, I know it sounds so silly, awareness for that, and I want people to heal. I think ESO is missing great healers. I think Drone, I think so many other healers. Doc, who's a person I've gotten to play with a little bit. Tyler Ray, we used to play with him last year. These healers who put all this work into it and really master their craft. It makes the game so much more enjoyable. And, you know, today we were talking with our friend Kyle. He was like, oh, 3 DPS is more fun. I'm like, but it's not what it's about.
It's not meant to be like that.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to cheese every boss, you know? It's like, why are you playing the game if you're trying to get around playing the game?
So,
but yeah, no, I appreciate the compliment too. But it's true. It's true.
yeah, and
but I think part of it maybe is because it's hard to make a good hybrid. It's very difficult to be good at both dealing damage, giving resources back. Like, it's very difficult to make that character effective.
I think some healers too do need work. I'm not trying to say that all healers have all the answers and that they're going to be so much better than everyone else.
Right.
But I do find though healers pick up on their craft a little bit quicker than DPS. And I found you better at healing before me and Alex and Kyle were better
again,
at our
it's because it's so straightforward. I was kind of getting at the beginning, but it's like when I read a set, I can tell you if it'll be a good healing set because it'll be like you're up to 4 friendly allies now do 5% more damage. You know what I'm saying? It'll be like, oh, this would be good. Like if I put this on, my heal is stronger. But with DPS, it's like, well, if you do this, you get shock damage. And it's like, do I want shock damage? If you do this, you get poison. Am I looking for poison? You know? So it is very easy. It's much easier to be a good healer than a good DPS.
Yeah, but I think the problem with not having that many good healers is so many people try to heal and they get so dissuaded from it by all the hate they get when they go into a random
Right.
And you know, the thing is too that I have to remember is when I'm going into random groups, I'm just going in to grind for XP. And that's 800 something CP. I'm just queuing as a healer in a normal dungeon. I'm going to go burn it, and that's going to be it. A lot of these people are looking for people to play with on the next dungeon, And I think when they're talking in party, I think there is a lot of toxic players, and I think the healers get very dismayed. Then they're like, nah, screw this, I'm not going to heal. It makes complete sense to me. Yeah. I wouldn't want to deal with that pressure. Nope. And also those people just being complete assholes. I would be like, no, I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
I don't know the fix. I think the fix is just, the community coming together and saying, hey, people like Alcast who are making these build videos and these builds on his website, Gillian the Rogue who did it, making these builds and posting up there, even myself putting builds up, and then just trying to educate the newer players, because they obviously, when you play an MMO, you want to be good. So if you want to be good and you're coming to an MMO, let's try to make you a good player. So, and I don't think anyone wants to be bad. I don't think the person getting mad at the healer thinks he's the best player, and if he does, then that's the problem. But
right.
You can, I don't know. Having a good healer can be so good, and having a bad healer, healing is also make and break. I guess the other point I want to get to is healing can be make or break in the sense that if healing isn't there, sometimes it's devastating, especially in
Oh yeah, especially the worse the DPS, the more devastating it is.
Yeah.
If the worse the team, dude, hell, I even threw the tank in there. The worse the tank and the DPS are, the more important the healer becomes. So when they're not great, you have a whole nother weight to carry on your shoulder. But it does work in vice versa, where you're saying like it's very easy to be a bad healer. It is, dude. You're with a team of 750s, they don't need freaking healing. They're just gonna ask for shards or ball every couple minutes, and all you gotta do is stand there and give it to them.
Yeah,
You're
and
like
then it comes right back
like
to the
squire.
It comes right back to the point. Hey, put on a damage set. Put on a damage set,
Right.
bro. Like, let's just burn this. Like,
Right.
because like I said, I think the thing we've learned throughout over 2.5 years of really grinding ESO and exploring every nook and cranny of the PvE space is tank healers are definitely the direction when an endgame healer wants to do fun stuff, I'd shoot them in, because they're going to be valued, they're going to learn more, they're going to pick up on habits that are going to transcend gameplay way better than if you're just in a dungeons group, which is really sad because I am a huge dungeon fan and I find that closer coordination so much more fun to me. Because I feel when you win, everyone did their role. And when you're in a trial, if you're on the lower end of the 6 or the 8 DPS that are in there, you don't feel like you did jack shit. Like, you don't. And so there maybe is more pride out of the dungeons, but from the healer's perspective, we don't talk too much about DPS. I kind of made it about myself. It definitely, it's more fun for trials. But another point I wanted to get into, I feel like, is there anything else you want to say on that, by the way, or are you?
Nah, dude, you kind of summed it up. It's just like the team chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
if you're all out there doing your job and working, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
When one of them lacks, people start blaming each other, and it's very easy.
And the whole group crumbles.
It does.
I think we can even go into a broader conversation I'd like to hit on. I think one of the problems with ESO that people face is looking in the mirror and realizing how to fix their own build instead of criticizing other people.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I think that's a real life problem too, but I think it's very relevant in ESO, especially when you're in those random groups and when you're in trials and you're in all these things and the group is suffering. I find the group eating each other and not encouraging. Like, I look at ESO like a team sport. I look at, like, tank is the quarterback, wide receivers are the heal or the damage, running back is the healer. Like, and I'm just a football fan, but it's like a team sport. And if you're not encouraging your team to get better and helping them and giving them tips, like, I know you and me during streams will say to each other, hey dude, like, try this here, this might help, or hey, good job there, like, that was perfect, encouraging each other. And I think a lot of the struggles with teams in ESO is that coordination and that chemistry.
Definitely, especially just random pug groups. Like, why would you have that confidence with those random people?
Yeah, and yeah, the random pug groups are tough because it's ESO's way of saying, hey, let's meet new people. And on paper, the system says everyone's going to be friends, we're all going to get along, and then we'll beat the dungeon. But the truth of the matter is there are going to be builds that are not even close to being done, and there are going to be builds who are so far done they can carry the whole group. And then you're kind of robbing a team of their potential if you're just the best player and they're carrying them. But I think I just find the ESO community, when people say ESO is toxic, I find the toxicity coming from criticizing other builds and thinking you're perfect.
Definitely, that's definitely where it stems from.
Yeah, and I find that in comments more than anything, dude. Not even in the game.
Right,
You go on a YouTube video build, and you'll find comments. I have comments on my videos saying, like, this isn't good, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because it's my play style, and it makes me a better player.
Right.
So, if there's anything you want to add, I'm sorry. I've been kind of going here.
Nah, dude, nah, you're preaching. Making a lot of good points. That's definitely a thing. And, it's like, I think really what it comes down to is just maybe a lack of knowledge of the game. That's what I think it was for us. Back when we used to get a lot of criticism, said everyone was toxic, we really just weren't sure what we were doing.
We would even crumble on each other. Remember times we would get in fights because
we were unaware that we weren't playing the game right. I think they're fixing that. I think someone told them that, and you know how now when you get 1 to 50 to give you stuff and advisory tips, they are letting you in on, hey, you don't have to get on Google, you don't have to ask another player. The game is now going to teach you how to not get so much criticism, because I find that really the people who think the communities are the toxics, the communities are very toxic end up being the players who weren't so good.
And who are toxic.
Because-
The toxic players
Exactly.
thinks the community's toxic.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, because
Like
yeah,
if you
they're
asked
just-
me,
they're just
I would say the
harder.
community's not that toxic, but I'm very in touch with the streaming community, not
Right.
the gaming community.
right,
so-
which is very different.
Yeah, and so we can talk about that a little later, but I definitely think if you're toxic, you find people around you more toxic. I think anyone who is toxic out there, and if you're listening to this and you find yourself thinking other people are toxic, like maybe turn around and look at yourself and be like, am I doing things that might be
Right.
Oh,
A lot of people will get toxic in self-defense.
exactly? Yeah.
One little comment that can be taken any way is gonna end poorly for you.
Yeah, and that's sad. It's honestly
is.
sad because I mean, there's just a lot of I don't know, but yeah, I think all right. I think we've capped off this conversation pretty good. I mean, toxic players need to just educate themselves, and then they will notice things get better.
Right.
Another thing I want to talk to you about a little bit was changes to ESO you want to see. So I'm going to ask this to everyone I interview. I'm going to talk to everyone about a couple of these topics now. That was very much about you and some of your tips for healing, but now I
Yeah.
want to talk to you about where's ESO heading, and you as a player, what do you find yourself gravitating towards, and what do you find yourself not enjoying about the game, and things maybe you'd want to change? So I guess some things you love if you want to start,
Yeah.
and we can talk a little bit about that.
Things I love about the game, I love the creator's attention to it. I love 4 new things to do every year. That's insane. I don't know what WoW's is on that, but like, what do we get? 2 DLC for Skyrim? 2?
Yeah.
We get 4 a year, probably for the next, I don't know, maybe 7 years. That's crazy. They are spending that much time putting all that effort in, and that makes it so much more fun. Because it's like, we were talking about this earlier today, where like, well, I mean, what happens when you're a Fang Rush, you know? You run through all these things, you beat it. Why do you get on ESO? What are you doing? You have the best sets. You
Because
have
of the
this.
upgrades coming.
Exactly. There's new difficult things coming. There are patches, and it's like, I love that fact. You'll never beat the whole game. You'll always get to play.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of scary to think, oh shit, this is the game I'm never gonna win. But you're just thinking about it wrong. This is the game you'll always want to play, because there's always those things. And I think that is the number one thing I love about ESO.
Yeah, it makes it really special, and
It does.
I want to say too, the devs in ESO and the people who are behind the game also make it great. Like you've met Rich Lambert personally and gotten to
I
talk to
did,
him,
dude.
and you talked to him
Yeah.
about Battlegrounds, and like you may have even had a little bit of a say of what was going on because he had some points he wanted to ask you about.
Right.
Excuse
yeah,
me.
dude.
I'm drinking a lot of water, so I'm getting
No, I was too. I'm getting dry mouth.
yeah, and so I think that also makes these new DLCs so much more exciting because you know the people behind it are working their butts off to make a great game, regardless of the mistakes they make and the advances they make. I
Yeah, it's
know
like-
nothing is ill will or trying to
Right.
hurt the
I mean,
players.
think about Rich, dude. I asked Rich. He was streaming that time. We asked him, dude. Remember, there were 5 people because no one knew he started. You send the message in there and you say, Rich, what's your favorite game? And you expect him to say Call of Duty, you know, like, oh, this game's fun, but I just love zombies at heart. I just like video games. That's why I made this. But no, he says this is his favorite game. And you know, the guy
That's
who
cool,
is
yeah.
in charge of the game
Loves it.
loves his own game, so
Yeah.
he is always gonna want to improve it. And I was like really inspired by that.
I mean,
love
dude.
that. was
I mean,
like,
dude.
that's
You
awesome.
should follow him on Twitter. He posts when he has a good BG's match. He posts when he beats VMA.
Yeah, dude.
Like
He
he's
loves
playing the
playing
game
it.
when he's not
It's
working
his
on it.
own favorite game. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can say that about every company. The guys at EA, dude. Oh, I just love Battlefront 2 EA. You know what I'm saying?
No,
They don't
100%.
say that.
100%. And I think
Eh.
yeah, I think that's really one of my favorite things too. Is just, God, just the way the way the game keeps updates coming, and the way I don't know how I feel about the pricing very much, but I feel like the content they're releasing is always solid content. I don't want to really get into how everything gets paid for just yet, but I do
Right.
want to say the content they're creating, I'm never disappointed with, and I appreciate that they have a schedule. They do cons like QuakeCon coming up tomorrow. Like those are really special things, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. But now,
hmm
let's talk about some things you don't like about the game. And honestly, dude, here's the thing. This is an Elder Scrolls podcast to everyone watching. It's an Elder Scrolls podcast. But if you're not critical about what you love, it'll never get better.
Right, dude.
And I see people who say, I'm afraid to talk bad about it because I want to be liked in the Elder Scrolls community. I want the people at ZeniMax to like me as a streamer. And I want nothing more than to be noticed by the people at ZeniMax and to say, hey, I appreciate that you stream on Xbox. I appreciate you do these things. And I work for that in some sense. But there's points in time where the game does things, and I think to myself, I need to say something because I love this, and I can't not let it be.
Can't go on with this.
If you don't criticize, nothing will be fixed. So I have to ask you, and you can be harsh. What are some of the things you don't like about Elder Scrolls that you want to see?
Well, there's two big things really, and there's really only two massive ones. But the first one is, I guess, starting with the mechanics. They need to find a way, and as a healer, to put our importance back into this. You don't need healers anymore, and there should
for dungeons, right?
Yeah, for dungeons.
Okay. Vet dungeons.
Yep,
I just want to make sure we're very specific.
Yeah, but there's no reason they can't make a mechanic that only the healer can save the team.
Yeah.
There are so many where the tank has to do something, and if he fucks up once, sorry my language, but
that's okay. It's okay.
The whole team will die. So it's like, why doesn't the healer have something like that? Why is it his job can always be worked around? And they need to switch that. So that would be something they should look into. They can make dungeons with abilities, with mechanics where you need that, and I don't know why they don't. And then the other thing is simply, we talked about how much they love their own game and all the work they put in, but they gotta stop they gotta put the work where it matters, Dude, we joke all the time about proccing potions. Why doesn't my D-pad give me a potion every time? It's not my controller. It's not my Xbox. It's not the TV.
Yeah, no.
It's the game. Why can you give me 6 more chapters, but hey, all I'm trying to do is drink my essence of freaking Magicka so I can beat this dungeon, So they gotta go in and I don't even know if that is an Xbox lag, if that's technically one of the things that we have to deal with, or if it's in their coding, or if it's simply just something they need to just go in and fix, And I would love them to address that. A bar swap is right up with there. And even to go even broader and say dungeons with broken mechanics. Don't give me a new dungeon if I can't play the old ones.
Yeah,
I think if they can go in and put a little more effort into doing that things, the game really would be excellent.
I think that's my biggest problem too. And
yeah.
I've, again, being decently prominent in the community, to the point where people say, oh, I know Snowstorm, but that's a recognizable name. I see a lot of things.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people have asked ZeniMax to do, and what I would really like to see as well, I think, would be if ZeniMax said, hey, 2019, no chapter. We're going to take that whole semi of a year, that fourth of a year, and make an install patch that fixes a ton of the bugs. We're going to go through, and for a whole period, we would be making a new patch. We are just going to look at what we have and try to fix it. Make some fixes to the sets that are broken, obviously. But no new content, no $40 new content thing. Yeah. This is going to be a patch. And let me tell you, Elder Scrolls may not get that many new players, but I guarantee you, a lot of old players would come back. A lot of old players would come back, and they would want to retry the game. Because I know a lot of people who have left because they said, I can't deal with the mechanics, especially on Xbox, dude. The lag gets so bad, they're like, I can't do this anymore. And so when that happens, they leave. And if ZeniMax just said 1 year, hey, let's do this, or even if they did it every patch, they came up with a new bug update instead of like a smaller DLC and then a bug patch. I think the community would really be happy about that, because the most important part about any video game is playing the video game. Like, I hate to say that, but it's so true. Like, if you can't play the game, I don't care about Somerset. If the game doesn't work, like when Morrowind came out, dude, BGs were broken on console. I love BGs now, and I think they did a great job, dude. But they didn't work, and they charged us $40, and the game just didn't work at that point. And it was like this thing where I was like, I want to love it, I want to play it, but I physically can't get into it. The queue system's not working, and I didn't want to crap talk ZeniMax because I know it's not easy running an MMO, and I'm not saying it is. I think they need to care more about that stuff, and I agree with you 100%. I think it's a huge problem right now with the game, and something that turns off a lot of people. You watch videos who will say, before playing Elder Scrolls, watch this video, and they'll say, glitches, get ready, like the game is glitchy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's something that I wish I knew how to fix, but it's just right now. The game is okay right now. There are things in the PvE, and this is from a PvE standpoint, guys, not PvP. But from PvE, I'm not noticing a lot of problems, and when I do notice them, ZeniMax does fix them. But it'd be great if they said, hey, we're gonna open up a forum. Everyone post down what's not working, and then they find the top 10 most things that aren't working, and then we try to fix those. I think that would be a huge thing that would bring back so many people in the Elder Scrolls community.
It would.
Is there anything else?
Would.
Anything else you want to say that you're not a huge fan of?
Dude, like, those are the big ones. I'd have to really get nitpicky if I was gonna keep looking. Like, for example, the RPG factor in ESO definitely struggles.
You think? Oh, okay. So you're not doing quests.
I would not want to. If someone said, "Hey, man, looking for a good RPG, got any recommendation?" ESO would not come up.
But see, that's funny because a lot of people would disagree with you there.
Yeah,
I
know they would.
Because
and
a lot of the role players actually really enjoy it, and I'm very cut in the middle. Me personally, I don't mean to cut you off, but I never find myself logging on to do a quest.
Me either.
And that's
what I mean. Tell me that's not what Skyrim was as a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. But
like,
I think
I'm gonna get on to escape and live a story, and it's gonna be dope.
I think the problem with the questing
succeeded in giving you that.
I
but
think
ESO it struggles with.
These are my problems with the questing, and I think it comes down to 3: lack of branching dialogue, lack of rewards, and lack of group play. Where are the group quests?
Yeah.
Where is the branching dialogue? And where is the loot at the end? Because why come on and do a quest? Oh well, you don't even get enough XP for it to be.
Dude,
worth
I'll tell
it.
you what's funny. You know what Somerset introduced at the end of at the end of the quest, he gave you a motif chapter.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
And see,
like,
that goes back to them fixing
things. If I go quest, dude, if I go quest for 6 hours, I'm not gonna go do a vet trial. But I'm gonna really have a cool guy. This is something I want to work towards. So it's a way to give the questers a really special reward.
And and those motifs force people to quest. So for the people who aren't questing, it even gives the questers a little bit of bank power when they're selling things.
Exactly. Now they can go in the store and say, well, because a lot of people just don't do any quests.
Because you find it the other way around. You find people getting a dungeon motif and then questers buying it because they can't beat the dungeon.
Right.
So, but now I find the RPG factor of ESO not as intriguing to me. We did find it intriguing. We used to stream and only do quests.
Yeah, you know what's funny though is even the beginning of the summer, I did get on by choice to play ESO quests, and I think that was only because I loved the game. You know, it wasn't because I loved the quests. I just couldn't really dig into it, you know?
No, it definitely didn't immerse me as much as Skyrim, and I think the other thing I want to talk about with ESO's problem is their storyline. I think the main story doesn't work of, oh, you're the chosen one. You're obviously not the fucking chosen one, dude. There's a million other people running around who are the chosen one.
Right.
I thought it would have been cool.
That's just bad story writing.
I don't think it was bad story writing. I think they knew it worked because I think what they were trying to do is say, hey, story mode will be in an Elder Scrolls style single player game. Dungeons, Trials, PvP is going to be an MMO style. You know what I'm saying? But I think they should have tried to integrate the two more. You know what I'm saying? So
definitely.
I don't know how to fix it. And there's some great people. I'll definitely link some in the bottom of here, guys, if you're interested in seeing how ESO could be fixed. There's some people who've actually made some great videos. Me and John have watched the guy. He was the one who talked about the Somerset thing, and it was interesting. And I guess, how'd you feel about Somerset's story comparative to other ones? Because I know you did beat it all.
Yeah, I did. It was good. I mean, it wasn't. Like, you ask anyone, the best RPG content the game has ever made was the Orsinium questline.
Really?
You want to beat it. And a lot of people would agree with me on that. You can read that in a lot of places. You just want to keep knowing what's going to happen. That's the whole point. While definitely in this, it was more like, oh, I want to beat it to say I beat it. I want to beat it, so now I got this motif chapter. It wasn't, I want to beat it to see what happens.
Yeah, that's understandable. That makes sense. I find me questing, oh, I want to beat this because I need some XP. I never find myself, I find myself clicking A so fast that I'm just getting through it, which is really sad because there's hard work voice actors in there, there's hard work story writers, and I think the way they're presenting it just doesn't work very well, and I don't know how to fix it because I don't think there really is a way to, and I think that's just one perspective. I don't want to take any credibility away from the people who do roleplay because I've watched some of those streamers, and they're honestly fun to watch, and when they read the text and they get into it and give a little bit of perspective, it is enjoyable, actually, and I definitely there's space for it, and me personally, I think I started off that way, but now I find myself in the much more competitive PvE gameplay of beating hard trials, beating hard dungeons. Because
well, if you ask me,
that's where the game
really
excels.
where the game shines.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I think the game
that's
excels.
where most players would put themselves, and that's where you want to be.
Yesterday, we had someone ask, well, how's the combat in this game? And I said it's the best part.
It is the combat. I mean, but that is it. That's why when I said the RPG factor, it's the quest, because the game fights like an RPG.
Yeah.
You do these quests, and you're really you are being your own character. You're not spamming your hotbar, as much as other games. So that I love, and I love the combat in this game. That's one of the reasons I still go back and play it all the time. Even switching back to Skyrim is weird because I'm not used to it. Because this one I am satisfied with, so I don't even question it.
Yeah, I find myself not going back to other MMOs or other Elder Scrolls games very often. Now that I'm a full-time ESO streamer, I find myself, it's all ESO. And honestly, it fills the hole pretty well. I tell people all the time, if you're an Elder Scrolls fan and you need some ESO fix, ESO will get it for you. It's kind of like, it's like having Coke and then drinking a tab. It's sort of that.
Yeah.
It's not Coke, but it tastes pretty good. It'll get you through it, and it's tough. We're kind of closing down here. We got a couple minutes left. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was any content creators you enjoy. I also want to ask all my viewers, or all my guests this, and if there's not that many, that's fine, but I know including myself, not including me is your favorite, or us, because, I mean...
Obviously we are, but...
if there's any other content creators that you found yourself really gravitating towards that you would say really helped you...
Yeah. I don't watch a lot anymore, but... Blob streams on the EU server, and I really used to enjoy watching him. I still do every now and again, but not as much as I used to.
Yeah, he's hardcore.
Yeah, he is, and he was really good. And he had
he's
a cool
very
accent.
theatrical. Like when he gets mad.
Oh yeah, and
really
when
good.
he gets excited or when he's doing something and he beats it, he really puts a lot into his stream. And I would recommend it to anyone who wants to watch some competitive, good PvP ESO streaming, because he's very good. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Fang Rush is best," and he easily could be. I enjoy watching him too, but I would put a lot of money. I bet Blob would put up a fight. So he's really good. He's fun to watch. And he's not as popular as someone as a lot of them, so he's cool to like go in and watch. He is popular though.
Yeah, I think he's a partner now. But
yeah.
What was I gonna say? Is there anyone else that comes off, or? It's okay if there's not.
You know what's funny? So I like Outcast.
Do you? I like Outcast.
I like Outcast. I like Outcast because he's such. He comes off as such a non-elitist, and he will make these builds, and he'll say, "Yeah, you might not be able to do that trial, but it is really cool. I got like this ice build from him, and it's just cool that he put some time into making it, and it kind of worked, and it was a really neat idea, knowing it wouldn't be this in any way. So I enjoy that about him."
Yeah, no, 100%. I think he does a great job too, and I appreciate his website a lot. I always tell people, go check out Outcast's website as a starting point for a build, because Outcast puts a lot of information down and he puts a lot of work into it. And he's a great streamer too. I always enjoy watching him. I sadly don't watch him too much, but when I do get a chance to, I always enjoy myself. So. John, I think that's pretty good for our time, buddy.
All right, dude.
All I want to say is this was a lot of fun. I hope anyone who watches got a lot of information just about healing, ESO, sort of the perspective of an Xbox player as myself, like how they feel about the game. And John has been with me, guys, since the very beginning, so this was a very comfortable first podcast, and I feel a lot better about it. I was actually pretty nervous starting this one off. I hope you guys all enjoyed it in the chat, though. I think we can, what's going to happen, I honestly don't know how to close it out. I guess, is there anything else you want to say? I guess I'll do that.
This kind of started off as a healing. Looking to be a healer, put some time into it, practice, get good sets, and it is really rewarding, and it's a lot of fun sometimes. So I would encourage those guys to keep going, girls.
Guys and ladies to keep
guys
working.
and elves, right?
Guys, yeah, the men and the elves.
Yeah, the men and
men, women, and elves and elf. What are elf women? I don't know.
I think it's just mer.
I think it's just men and mer. I think that covers it all.
Man and mer.
I didn't want to be sexist.
No.
Yeah, dude, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, guys. This will not be the only time John is on the podcast. John is actually leaving the team this Sunday, at least for a little bit. He's moving back to school. He's got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm pretty sure the next podcast I will have on it talking about juggling the ESO life with the working life, because John is definitely a guy who has a lot of things on his plate. And he does a good job juggling, being a good healer, and doing very well at his job.
Appreciate that.
But thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you later.